never thought I'd feel that kind of shame standing in my own child's living room. But when my daughter dumped a black trash bag at my feet and laughed, my face burned and my throat locked up. We were in her living room, gray couch, glass coffee table, rain tapping softly against the window. The air smelled like cheap coffee and lemon cleaner. The bag split open when it hit the floor. Envelopes spilled out, yellowed paper, my wife's handwriting. I knew it instantly. My daughter rolled her eyes and shook her head like I was pathetic. "Dad, why are you hoarding this junk?" she said, her tone sharp and mocking. "It's embarrassing." Then she said the line I'll never forget. "Mom's dead. Those letters meant nothing." Silence swallowed the room. Her husband stopped scrolling on his phone. His fingers froze midair. I felt every second stretch. I wanted to kneel down and gather the letters, but my legs wouldn't move. My heart was pounding too hard. That's when her husband stood up. Without saying a word, he bent down, picked up one envelope, and opened it. He started reading. At first, he smiled politely. Then his smile faded. His eyebrows pulled together. He reread the page, slower this time. His breathing changed. "What is this?" he asked, voice low. My daughter scoffed. "Old drama. Throw it back." He didn't. He pulled out another letter, then another. The room felt different now, charged, heavy. He looked up at me, eyes wide. "These aren't just love letters," he said. "These are detailed. Dates, conversations, people." My daughter shifted in her seat. "You're overreacting." But her husband's voice grew firmer. "No, you're underreacting." He turned toward her, holding the letter up. "Do you know your mother wrote about the company, about the settlement, about who really signed what?" The color drained from my daughter's face. The power in the room flipped. Where she had been laughing, she was now silent. Where I had been small, I was suddenly seen. Her husband looked back at me, almost whispering, "Why didn't you tell me your wife kept records like this?" I stayed quiet, because there was more he hadn't read yet, more letters, more truths, and the one in his hand, it was dated April 12th, 2001, the night my wife told me, "One day they'll try to erase this. Don't let them." That day had finally arrived. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and subscribe to Social Old channel. We're creating a community of people who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. The room stayed frozen after her husband spoke. Rain kept tapping against the window like it didn't care what had just happened. My daughter's smile didn't come back. She crossed her arms instead, defensive, irritated. "You're making this weird," she said. "They're just old letters." Her husband didn't answer her. He sat down on the edge of the coffee table and started reading again, this time carefully, like every word mattered, like he was afraid to miss something. I finally bent down. My knees cracked as I gathered a few envelopes, my hands shaking. The paper felt thinner than I remembered, fragile, like my wife had been when she wrote them. "I told you to throw those away," my daughter snapped. "Why didn't you listen?" I swallowed, because explaining meant reopening things I had kept buried for years. Her husband looked up suddenly. "Wait," he said. "This one mentions a meeting and a payout." My daughter rolled her eyes. "So, Mom used to exaggerate." "No," he replied, firmer now. "This isn't exaggeration. She wrote names, exact dates, amounts." The air changed again. I could feel it. My daughter stood up. "You're seriously going to believe him over me?" He didn't look at her. He was still reading. "She even wrote who was supposed to sign," he said slowly, "and who didn't." That's when my daughter's voice cracked, just slightly. "Stop reading those." I looked at her then, really looked. Her hands were clenched, her foot tapped against the floor. She wasn't angry anymore. She was scared. Her husband folded the letter carefully and asked me, "Why were these in a trash bag?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was simple and painful. She hadn't just thrown them away. She'd been cleaning, and my wife had warned me this day would come. Her husband kept the letter in his hand, like if he let go, the truth might disappear with it. "You didn't answer me," he said, looking at me. "Why were these in the trash bag?" My daughter answered before I could. "Because they're useless," she snapped, "and creepy. He's been living in the past for years." I opened my mouth to speak, then closed it, because she wasn't wrong about one thing. I had been living in the past, but not out of grief, out of fear. Her husband turned to her slowly. "You went through these." She scoffed. "So what if I did?" He lifted the letter slightly. "Then you knew what was in them." The silence that followed was heavier than before. My daughter's voice dropped. "You don't understand how complicated this is." That was the moment I realized something was very wrong. "What do you mean complicated?" he asked. She looked away, toward the window, toward the rain. "They don't change anything," she muttered. "What's done is done." Her husband stood up. "No," he said. "What's done was hidden." He flipped to another page. "Your mother wrote about a settlement, about a partner who wasn't supposed to get paid, but did." My daughter's face tightened. "Stop." "She even questioned why the signature wasn't your father's," he continued. I felt my chest tighten, because my wife had come home shaking that night, because she had told me someone forged a name. Her husband looked straight at my daughter. "Why were you trying to get rid of evidence?" My daughter laughed, but it sounded thin. "Evidence? Don't be dramatic." Then she said the thing that cracked everything open. "If those letters come out, people get hurt." The room went silent again. He stared at her. "People like who?" She didn't answer. She just whispered, "You have no idea what Mom was involved in." That's when I finally spoke. She knew someone was going to blame me. Both of them turned toward me. "And she knew," I continued, voice shaking, "that one day you try to erase her words." My daughter's eyes filled with tears, but not regret, fear. Because she hadn't thrown the letters away to protect me. She'd done it to protect herself. If you believe some truths are too dangerous to bury, subscribe now, because what my daughter did before I walked into that living room changes everything. Her husband was still staring at her when she looked away. "I didn't have a choice," she said quietly. That sentence hit harder than yelling ever could. "What did you do?" he asked. She rubbed her palms together like she was cold. "I talked to someone." Just to understand what those letters meant, my heart sank. "Who?" I asked. She hesitated, then finally said it. "The company lawyer." The room tilted. The same company my wife had written about, the same one mentioned again and again in her careful handwriting. Her husband's voice dropped. "You went to them?" "They said the letters were meaningless," she rushed. "Old, unreliable. They told me holding on to them could cause problems." "For who?" he asked. She didn't answer. I felt my wife's words echo in my head. "They'll try to erase this." Her husband picked up another letter, this one thicker, folded twice. "This one talks about a second copy," he said. My daughter stiffened. "What second copy?" He looked at me. "She wrote that she hid duplicates in case the originals were destroyed." My daughter's breath caught. I closed my eyes. Because my wife hadn't trusted anyone, not even me, with where she hid them. Not until the night she died. My daughter whispered, "Dad, you don't still have those." I met her eyes. "Yes," I said. "I do." Her husband exhaled slowly, like everything suddenly made sense. "Then they didn't just want the letters gone," he said. "They wanted you silent." My daughter backed away from us. And that's when I realized something terrifying. She hadn't come clean because she felt guilty. She was scared the wrong people already knew I still existed. The room felt smaller after I said it. Yes, I still have them. My daughter stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. Her husband didn't look surprised. He looked relieved. "Where?" he asked quietly. I hesitated, because saying it out loud made it real again. "In the old house," I said, "behind the fuse box, wrapped in plastic." My daughter shook her head fast. "No, that place was sold years ago." "I know," I replied, "but the wall wasn't touched." Her husband's jaw tightened. So someone else could find them? That was the point. My wife had planned for that too. She wanted witnesses, I said, not just evidence. My daughter's voice cracked. "You're ruining everything." I looked at her. "What exactly am I ruining?" She didn't answer. Instead, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Once, twice. Her husband glanced at the screen. A name flashed. Mark. Legal. He looked at her slowly. "You said you only talked to them once." She reached for the phone. He picked it up first. "Give it back," she snapped. He read the message out loud. "Have you confirmed whether the originals still exist?" The room went dead quiet. My daughter started crying. "I was trying to protect us." "From what?" he asked. She whispered, "From being pulled into Mom's mess." Her husband set the phone down gently. "No," he said, "you were protecting yourself." Then he turned to me. "If those letters are real, people could go to jail." I nodded. "I think that's why she wrote them." Another message buzzed. This time, her husband didn't read it. He picked up his coat. "I need air," he said, "and I need the truth." My daughter grabbed his arm. "Please don't go." He pulled away. "Until I know who you really are, I don't know if I can stay." The door closed behind him. My daughter sank onto the couch sobbing, and I finally understood something my wife had known all along. The letters weren't just proof. They were a test. After her husband left, the house went quiet in a way that felt unnatural. My daughter's crying slowed, not because she felt better, but because she was listening for consequences. "I want to see it," she said suddenly. I didn't ask which one. "The last letter," she added, "the one you're talking about." I shook my head. "Your mother wrote that for me." Her eyes flashed. "You don't get to decide that." I took a breath. "She decided it," I said, "the night she sealed it." I pulled the envelope from my coat pocket. Cream-colored, unmarked, heavier than the others. My daughter went pale. "You carried it with you?" she whispered. "Everywhere." I opened it slowly. The paper inside was thicker, careful, intentional. I read aloud. "If you are reading this, then they have already tried to erase what I found." My daughter froze. "Do not trust anyone who tells you these letters are harmless." Her hands trembled. "The company will deny everything, and someone close to us will help them." She gasped. "That person will say they are protecting the family." Tears streamed down her face now. "They are protecting themselves." I lowered the letter. My daughter collapsed onto the couch. "She knew," she sobbed. "She knew I would choose wrong." I folded the paper carefully. "She hoped you wouldn't." She looked up at me, broken. "What happens now?" I didn't answer, because my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from an unknown number. "We hear you still have something that belongs to us." I felt my wife's words settle like a warning. "Don't let them." I looked at my daughter. "Now," I said quietly, "we find out who's been watching us this whole time." The message stayed on my phone like a threat that didn't need explaining. "We hear you still have something that belongs to us." I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. Instead, I forwarded it to my daughter's husband. 3 dots appeared, then stopped. Then my phone rang. "Don't go anywhere alone," he said immediately. "They're testing you." I looked at my daughter. She was sitting on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. "They already know," I told him. "They've known." There was a pause on the line. "They asked me to meet," he said quietly. "Not you. Me." My stomach dropped. "Where?" "Tomorrow morning, downtown, coffee place near the courthouse." Of course it was. Public enough to feel safe, close enough to remind us who had power. "He think I'll talk," he said. "They think I'll convince you." I closed my eyes. "Will you?" "No," he replied, "but I want to hear what they're willing to admit." That night, none of us slept. The cafe smelled like burnt espresso and rain-soaked coats. I sat 2 tables away, pretending to read a newspaper. My daughter's husband walked in alone. 2 men were already waiting. Gray suits, soft smiles, eyes that didn't blink enough. One of them stood. "Thank you for coming." "I'm just listening," he replied. "That's wise," the man said. "Listening is safer than remembering." My hands tightened around the paper. "We understand your wife's letters still exist," the man continued. "Holding on to them could complicate things." "Complicate what?" my son-in-law asked. "Your future," the other man said gently. "Careers, marriages, reputations." The first man slid an envelope across the table. Thick. "He doesn't want money," my son-in-law said. The man smiled. "Everyone wants peace." That's when my son-in-law stood up. "He wants the truth." The smiles disappeared. And in that moment, I knew. They hadn't come to negotiate. They had come to measure how much fear still worked. The envelope stayed on the table between them. No one touched it. My son-in-law looked at it like it was something poisonous. "What's in it?" he asked. The man in the gray suit smiled again, slow, practiced. "A solution." "That's not an answer." The second man leaned forward. "Inside is an offer. Legal protection, compensation, a clean ending." "For who?" my son-in-law asked. "For everyone," the first man said. "Your wife, your father-in-law, even your future children." My chest tightened. They were already thinking generations ahead. "You want the letters," my son-in-law said. "We want what they represent," the man replied calmly. "Uncertainty." He finally opened the envelope. Inside wasn't cash. It was a contract, non-disclosure, full immunity. 1 signature line already highlighted. And beneath it, a handwritten note. "Sign, and this ends today." My son-in-law's jaw tightened. "You've forged signatures before," he said quietly. "This isn't new for you." The temperature at the table dropped. The smile vanished. "You should be careful," the second man warned. "Your wife has already been cooperative once." That's when my son-in-law stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "Don't talk about her," he said, "ever again." People nearby turned to look. The first man lowered his voice. "If your father-in-law releases those letters, he won't survive the consequences." That's when I folded the newspaper and stood. I walked over, slow, deliberate. I placed my hands on the table. "You already tried to erase my wife," I said. "You won't erase her truth." Both men froze. They hadn't known I'd be there. My son-in-law looked at me, shock, then resolve. The first man recovered quickly. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said. "She warned me about this moment." I pulled one envelope from my coat. Not the originals, copies. Everything in those letters has already been logged, timestamped, witnessed. Their faces changed. For the first time, fear. "You don't control this anymore," my son-in-law said. The first man stood abruptly. "This isn't over." I met his eyes. "It is if you walk away." They didn't reply. They left. Outside, rain hit my face like a relief. My son-in-law exhaled hard. "She was right, your wife." I nodded. "She always was." My phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. Then we'll see what the court thinks." I smiled for the first time in days. "Good," I said. "So will everyone else." The courtroom was colder than I expected, not in temperature, but in the way no one smiled. My daughter sat 2 rows behind me. She hadn't spoken to me in days. Across the aisle, the company's lawyers whispered to each other, confident, polished, prepared. They thought this was just another old man with papers. They were wrong. When my turn came, I stood slowly. My hands shook, not from fear, but from memory. I placed the letters on the table. "These were written by my wife," I said, "over 20 years ago. She knew someone would try to erase the truth." The judge nodded. "Proceed." My son-in-law stood next to me. "Each letter was logged, dated, and cross-referenced," he said, "with financial records, meeting minutes, and internal emails." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. One of the company lawyers stood quickly. "Objection! Speculation!" The judge didn't even look at him. Overruled. My daughter's breath caught behind me. The final letter was entered into evidence, the one that named names, the one that explained the forged signature, the one that said, "If this ever comes to light, know that I tried to stop it." The room changed. The confidence drained from the other side. By the end of the day, the settlement wasn't discussed, because this wasn't about money anymore. It was about accountability. Outside the courthouse, my daughter finally spoke. "I didn't know how bad it was," she whispered. I looked at her. "You knew enough to try to destroy it." She nodded, tears falling. "I lost everything, didn't I?" I thought of my wife, her patience, her foresight. "No," I said quietly. "You lost the chance to choose right." That night, I placed the letters back where they belonged, not hidden, not buried, preserved, because the truth doesn't belong in the trash. It belongs where it can't be erased. If you believe truth always finds its way back, subscribe, because some stories aren't about revenge, they're about refusing to forget. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who still believes the past doesn't matter. It does.